Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Truth podcast. My name is Celine. I have a special guest with us here today. She's called Tonga Warrior, and she's come to share her story with us on trafficking and all sorts really in relation to that. She's going to share a bit about her story with us now. So Tonga, how did it all begin for you?
I didn't know I was being trafficked in my childhood. I had a good childhood. Not good childhood, but like what would look as like a good childhood at first. Like mom and dad. My mom's side of the family, they're native. There's like rich native and poor native, and the rich doesn't really like the poor. And then my dad, he doesn't have a family, and so my mom always kind of like, we don't know if he's my dad. Like she slept with this German guy, so it could be him, but he left when my mom was pregnant. So my dad, even though he didn't have a family, he was happy to, in a sense, take over, but he was hurt because my mom had betrayed him. So I'm the first, and then I have a middle sister. She's my Irish twin, born like a little bit after me, within the year after me.
Yeah.
He's my dad's for sure. So we grew up together, and there's pedophiles in my mom's side of the family, and we had to deal with that. So I'll probably, leave you with a link that you could give to everybody if they want to really read up into that, like what it was like with the pedophilia and everything. Because it's basically my mom's side of the family, and they covered up for it. And I would say what I would say is important on that note is that, so being native, I would say in any race as well too, there is corruption in every race.
Yeah.
And that's my family. They're native, but they're corrupt.
Yeah, I think it's infiltrated into everything, hasn't it, really? It's like
Yeah.
infection spreading throughout.
Yeah. And so it's like one thing that I know we've talked about, aside of your show, is that, and we want to discuss here too, is that, there's things that people like assume, like when you say you're native and all that, they might assume you have benefits and all that. But a lot of natives is like, the only way you're going to get benefits is if your tribe was recognized by the government, and that means that they're owned by the government, basically, like they work with the government. And one of my tribes is recognized, but the other, and that's the more wealthy tribe, and we're related to other even more wealthy tribes. But the tribe that my family, like, they were just like, oh, that's the poor tribe, that's your tribe, so they named it for me. It was the Tongvas, and that's a tribe from Hollywood, and they were eliminated completely in order for Hollywood to be made. So either, for the Tongvas, you were either put in enslaved or you were put in Catholic concentration camps.
Wow.
And the only way you could get papers for if you were a Tongva is if you had racial stereotypes of being a native, and you also completed their Catholic training, Holocaust training camp.
So it sounds like this is probably where it happened. I've found this in a lot of cases, even with my own as well. Seems to be like these concentration camps. I think there was mind control going on in there, kind of really forcing this on society, this being a pedo and stuff. And it's funny how you're saying how you've experienced that within your tribe as well.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's the thing too, is exactly my family is they're natives, but we're special forces, they're law enforcement, they help build the prisons all throughout America. Like they're pretty big deal, in the law, and so people would say like, you know, one thing is that when you're trafficked and you tell people, is they assume all kinds of things about you. And then of course, the first thing they're going to say is, how come you don't talk to your family, or, what's up with your family? And, it's very rare in general to have a family nowadays, but it's makes it even more difficult when your family is part of that huge corruption.
Yeah.
Like the corruption is deep within my family for sure.
Yeah. It's the same with mine.
Yeah. It's crazy how all of us, we're connecting. Like I just met another girl and her mom, she steals babies from hospitals. Like she's been doing it for decades.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that,
Actually, my mom's a teacher. She's a pedophile teacher, and she also steals children. She works with pedophile, law enforcement, judges, doctors, psychologists, all of it. And they steal children and then illegally traffic them through CPS and all that.
yeah, my mum was a teacher as well. Well, my handler mum.
Yeah.
She was a teacher. They were stealing children. I was even there for one of them. I've tried speaking out about it. No one will listen. And it's
Exactly.
a highly public case as well. And I still don't get listened to.
I mean, it's like I'm trying to type it all out. It's just always, well, I'm in my late 20s, but I'm about to turn 29, and it's that's not too old, but for me it's like me typing out all this, and I'm trying to get a timeline together so everybody could a summarized timeline, because I type out individual, but it takes out so much. It could be like a book per, to add in details per section of what's been going on. So I'm trying to do a summary, and through each year is like so much
Yeah.
going on. Yeah, since childhood and all that. It's like, mom having a daycare, and she takes those daycare kids to pedophiles and everything. Mom sleeping with pretty much everybody in towns and neighborhoods.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad not knowing how many people my mom's actually sleeping with, and him thinking that if he does everything that the courts say, because my mom so basically what happened is, we were a normalish family at first. Everyone thinks we look good and everything because my mom has us in pageants, and we're actually the pageant winners. We're like, my sister and I were the top of everything in the pageants. Like our mom already, before they would announce who the winners were, my mom would just be walking up with us because she knew we were going to win the pageant. So we were winners, and so people thought like it looked really good and everything. And we never, like, I never ate from my mom's food ever. And I guess like when you're a kid, and like I think subconsciously my dad didn't really care for me. Like I loved him more than my mom, but I think of course subconsciously he didn't really like me so much, knowing that I could possibly not be his.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he never really listened to me or anything, and so he never really thought to ask, like, how come you don't eat your mom's food? Like he did ask me one time, but obviously he didn't think into it until like really, really later on. But he asked me, he said, how come you don't eat your mom's food? Or like, how come you refuse to eat her food? And I said, because she puts nasty stuff in it. And I was a little kid and I imitated like putting pills in a food.
Yeah.
She did. She poisoned the food. Yeah.
Was that to drug you or?
Yeah. I guess because my uncle's he's a serial pedophile, and he would do things to me sexually as a baby, which I do remember happening. And so I taught myself to walk really young. I taught myself everything because my parents were not there for me. But I would run away from the pedophile. I would scratch, I would scream, I'd do whatever it takes to try to get away. But my little big sister, she would still be getting the sexual abuse, and I had to watch that.
Yeah.
And I ran away, and they knew that they had to kind of be a little bit more careful. That's why they started to drug everybody more.
Yeah, I got drugged a lot more as I got older as well.
Wow. And
Yeah.
people don't understand. It's like, well, it could be legal or it could be illegal, but it's just they are deadly. They are so deadly. You cannot eat or drink anything from anyone who Mason involved, or
Yeah.
money, gold, or anything. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people don't really realize the extent, do they, of actually how bad this is and how big it is. think it's just
Yeah.
focused on rituals and stuff, and that's like a small piece of the puzzle, really, in the grand scheme of it all.
Yeah. I mean, of all the horrible things that I've gone through, I've gone through a lot, and I've gone through a lot of horrible things like satanic ritual abuse in Los Angeles and everything. But it's crazy because they always continuously do something worse and worse and worse. There's like no end to their evil.
No.
Mhm.
No, and it's a bit like that for you still now as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I know that I'm lucky, because I know that they've got girls being held and sex trafficked and all that. I'm being labor trafficked. I am in a home, so that's, wonderful. But I can't leave the home, you know.
Yeah.
I can't get a drop of water without the Masons giving it to me or anything, so I have to keep doing work. I have to keep doing, staying quiet and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I speak as much as I possibly can. It's just the reason why I have to stay quiet is because, well, some things to reveal that are pretty dangerous, but I'm just gonna kind of just say a little bit and, we'll talk. I know we've discussed that. We'll probably talk about it more later.
Yeah, we're
So,
going to do some more podcasts together, aren't we? I think going
yeah,
forward.
yeah, because that would be good. I'm in a position to where it's literally gonna take a miracle for us to survive. Yeah.
Yeah, we just want to keep you safe, really, at the end of the day. That's the most important thing right now.
Um, so once, if I could get to a safer place, or, if I didn't have to rely on the Masons for water at least, then I could speak a little bit more and all.
Yeah.
But, we're just going to try to do it in a very safe way. And, I'll add in codes all around and everything. And if I do die, I do have stuff that is to be released that
Yeah.
will be just out.
Yeah, and there's a lot there. I only got to look through a few things before, but oh, it's crazy the amount you've got there. It's good though. You still there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, I thought we lost you then.
Yeah. There's it's a miracle that I've survived to this point, and it's a miracle that, we've met, and, we're getting this stuff out.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how things connect, isn't it? I think it's come just at the right time as well, really.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I was so happy, like, one thing I have to say is, like, I'm happy with you, and your team is like, I don't have to, like, I don't have to really go into why things are psyops. You guys already know, you guys are on top of it. So that's great,
Yeah.
because there's some things too that's like, and I know you guys know too, it's like, we know it's a psyops, but it's like everybody's just the masses are so full up into it, we're stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem. I keep trying to highlight this all the time, but I don't know. There are a lot of people that see through it, but there's still a lot that are getting carried away.
Yeah.
The
But
false information and
and the number one thing right now, and the biggest false piece of information, all that right now, that everyone needs to be aware about, is that Sound of Freedom psyops. And that, if you actually care about trafficking, you don't recommend that movie to people. You don't recommend the National Trafficking Hotline.
yeah,
That's the number one thing. Because if anybody's out there and they're trafficked, or if they're going through anything, and you're wondering what to do, don't call the police. Yeah, don't call the National Trafficking Hotline, because, I did it. Um, I'll give a little context on it, so that people know. So, like, with my mom, she's how, I was kind of opened up a little bit to the corruption. I just still didn't, I would say I'm very sheltered, because of all the pedophilia and everything going on in my childhood. I was happy to just, lock myself in a room
Yeah.
and read books. And that's what I would do. I would put stuff in front of my door. I would lock up my windows and everything so, pedophiles wouldn't go in my room, but I couldn't do anything about them getting to my sisters. To my sister, I have another sister now, who's being sexually abused. That's why I say sisters. Yeah, I have a little sister who's currently being sexually abused.
Wow.
Yeah. And also I have another daughter as well, who is in my mom's and my ex's clutches, who's a pedophile, who was given to them, I'll say, kind of, San Bernardino city, county, which is part of the Tongva land, but it's called so Tongva land was Los Angeles and it's San Bernardino County. And so, but San Bernardino County is guilty of, as many other areas is, of taking kids and giving them to pedophiles and trafficking their parents, the good parents, through the state. And that is one of the things that's happening to me.
Mm.
Yeah. Because they took my first daughter. Yeah. And I gave her to my pedophile ex.
Yeah. It's another thing that's widespread as well. It's how they get away with it. It's like the system's built in favor of the people that it's meant to be against. It all works in their favor. They've got access to children with CPS, police.
Yep, exactly.
Helpline. You're just giving away that you're giving it away that you're being trafficked. It's intel gathering, isn't it? And then you end up getting sent back in a lot of cases, or end up in worse situations.
Yeah, exactly. That's what exactly happened to me. So, yeah, so I left, well, my mom, when my dad, I had to go through. So, we're winning the pageants, and we had like a thing because I wouldn't eat my mom's food, so we would only go out to eat. And actually, on the weekdays, we would pretty much just go to Universal Studios, and then on Fridays, we would go to the movies, watch every single movie, and then on the weekends, we would go to like Knott's Berry Farm or something, and like other travels and so we were always traveling. That's what I'm saying. It looked like pretty good. We had a nice, decent little home. It was humble, it was like 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, but it was really nice. It was one of the nicest houses in the neighborhood. It had like a beautiful rose garden and everything. And it was only because we got the house at a cheap price. I remember them saying like I chose the house because it had a big tree in the back. And they said that it was so cheap because there was two old couples that lived there before, and they had died. And that's how the house got for sale. So my mom got a daycare there, and my mom was giving the kids sleeping medicine, and she would she would tell the parents and everything like, oh, I take your kids to out to eat. Her daycare was called Keep 'em Busy, so everyone's thinking like, oh, she's this daycare person who's taking these kids out to go to restaurants or going to fun places, Universal Studios, all this stuff. But she was actually giving them sleeping medicine and then taking them to be touched and sexually abused by pedophiles. Yeah. So one day, like I'm walking, this was when I was in junior high, and I'm walking in, and she's changing while she has the babies on the two babies on the changing table, one boy and one girl, and they're just bleeding from their privates. And I'm like, what the heck, what's going on? I'm startled. And my mom says it's normal. So my mom, one of the little baby's parents had actually walked in, and like not too long after that, and I just randomly had said like, oh, the baby was bleeding, and the mom was like, what? And my mom said, oh, the dad brought the baby in and the baby was bleeding, I don't know what it was. And I remember the mom being upset, and I thought that was weird, so it's like, I always had my suspicions about my mom and such, because see, she would blame everything like on my dad. Like she said my dad knew about the pedophilia. She said that because my mom would take us to the pedophile to go be babysat, and she said that it was our dad's idea that he babysit us because he didn't want us to be with our grandma and all that. So it's true, but later on, my dad told me that he didn't know that we were being sexually abused, but my mom just kept blaming things on him, like the pedophiles and my mom. There would be porn left on, and my sister and I were like scared of it because, to my sister, the sexual abuse is just like a bad dream to her. That's what it is to her. For me, I had to see it happen to them. For me, I was awake for it, when it happened to me. So that's why, it's traumatizing to me in that way, because I had to see it happen to my sisters. But for my sisters, it's more like, yeah, they were awake for it when they were a baby, but other than that, they were put to sleep for it. Like my sister, my 14-year-old sister right now, she just turned 14, currently is still being drugged by my mom and being abused. Yeah. And my other daughter, she's with a pedophile, and we're really afraid now that he's doing stuff to my sister and my daughter, while they're asleep as well, but they're stuck with them.
Yeah.
But I was the only person to speak up in my family about the pedophile, so my mom always, like, she would starve me, she would make sure I didn't have anything. I don't know how to drive because I was never taught. I never got anything, like, very poor. I
Yeah.
was just very poor. I had to walk everywhere and get any little thing on my own. So my dad ended up walking in on my mom with like a daycare kid's dad, and it was shocking to him. It's like he couldn't put together like all the things that my mom had going on because he was just shocked by that alone. And then after that, he found out my mom was sleeping with the neighbor's brother, and then also the other neighbor, and then this other guy, and then one of my teacher's husbands. Like it just kept going on and on and on and on, like all the people that my mom was sleeping with. And so it was like gig is up for my mom, and like she was tired of my dad anyways, because like when we were winning the pageants, we got offers to like Hollywood, all that stuff, and my dad always said no, 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 no. So my mom, she was poisoning him, hoping he would die. He was somehow staying alive. It was a miracle. And now that he had found out that she was cheating on him, she had to get rid of him. Like, one way or another. If he wasn't going to die, she had to get rid of him some way. Yeah.
So,
So that's how my mom started the process of taking us away through the courts.
all right, okay. So they're divorced now then.
Yeah. So when that happened, like I said, my dad didn't know that all of the corruption that my mom was involved in and everything. Like, so like the daycare kids, even the parents picked up the daycare kids sometimes, and they were like drowsy, like drugged up, like, and my mom would just say, "Oh, they're tired because we were out all day," So that's how she would get away with it. One time, one of the kids got into well, she said the kid got into a pill, but she said that, but she doesn't want people to know that she drugged him all the time. So I guess it got really bad, for one of the little kids, and that one did have to get taken to the hospital, and they just ruled it off as like an accident. But it had happened a few times, but that one time, one of the daycare kids did get taken to the hospital. After that, my dad tried to like report her as like, because he would find sleeping medicine in the vans and all that, like just gone, like bottles of it, like that you would get from the hospital, like codeine or something, like really heavy stuff, and it would just be gone and gone, like bottles of it. So he tried to report my mom, and the police threatened my dad and said, if you try to report her again, we're going to arrest you.
Yeah. So
He
she's,
didn't
isn't she?
Yeah, yeah. He didn't get it, like that, my mom would go into the room with the police officer for hours, and like that was supposedly like their interview. Yeah. So my dad didn't get like all that was not normal. He was thinking like, yeah, I have the proof, I have the evidence that, she's doing bad by these kids. And he didn't even know all the horrible things that were happening. He didn't know that she was blaming it on him even and all. because like even my dad did have some friends that, you know, were part of the pedophilia, because my mom would just be bringing guys to the house. So I thought maybe he did know. Come to find out, like I ended up seeing my mom with my dad's friends. So I come to find out that they were together. So now I know that like that was a lie. Like things started to being revealed to me that it was my mom. You know, that's how I started even being more against my mom and more against my mom. But she had gotten rid of my dad. Basically, she had people like following him around, trying to kill him and all that. She drove him out. He could never be around, like in the state anymore. But she charged him child support, and she told me that she had him killed while she was collecting child support from him.
Wow. Because he knew too much. She was obviously worried he was going to talk.
Yep. Yeah. And so he's lucky that he got away with his life, but he had to pay, you know, for it and never see us again. I was 14 years old when that happened, when she told me she had him killed. Yeah.
So,
And then after that, I got groomed by a guy at my school. And, you know, I got pregnant underage. And that's how that happened. That's how I had my first daughter.
mm,
You know, my mom ended up getting with that guy, and I mean he's horrible, tried to get with all my friends. He's trying to get with my both of my sisters and all that. You know, I did when I decided to leave him. I mean, he had a video game addiction. I was stuck paying for that. I had to pay for the apartments. He refused to get a job. I forced him to go to college. I had to walk him to college pregnant, pay his way and all that. But after him trying to get with my sisters and trying to get with my friends and talking sexually about my mom, and I was getting a raise at work, and he was beating me up because of it, saying that there was no jobs and that I had to be doing sexual things in order to get that job.
mm,
So it made it really impossible. So it was hard because I'm, you know, at the time, because, you know, I'm a person of God, but at that time I was a person of God to where it was like bad though. Like I thought that God wanted you to be with whoever had got you pregnant. You know what I'm saying? And that's like wrong. I know that now, you know. Now I know that, God is somebody different from what the churches and all that say and all, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I mean is at that time I didn't know that I was groomed, you know. So I was underage and I was pregnant, you know, after so much abuse in my life. Like that's all I knew, you know, was sexual abuse, you know. So when this guy came, you know, I was 11 years old and he was like close to his 20s because he was a super senior, you know, in high school. So that's how I got groomed. But, you know, I ended up when I left him, my sisters were going through like a hard time because I was gone. So my mom was bringing in so many pedophiles, and like it was just horrible for them. So I called up my mom's side of the family, and I said I'm planning to leave, you know, my husband, and I want to move in with you guys so that, you know, maybe we could keep the pedophiles away for, you know, my daughter and my sister, my little sister, you know, for the little ones in the family. And they
Mm,
told me yes, but they lied, you know. You know, just as my mom had lied to my dad, so he didn't suspect all the things that she was doing.
yeah.
Yeah. So it didn't take long for pedophiles to start showing up, and I was kicked out of my mom and my grandma's house. And, you know, I was trying to be respectful, you know, like I would be there and then I would leave really quick, you know, go to work and everything. And they called CPS and said that I had abandoned my daughter there and all these horrible things. Yeah. But
Mm,
that's also when I left my ex, I left him with the apartment and everything. You know, I still was paying the apartment for him, you know, for like at least 7 months or so. Like afterwards, I was paying the rent for him, the utilities. I left him with the car because I couldn't drive anyways. You know, I left him with so much. And, you know, it left me homeless. So I was stuck homeless at the time. And that's how one of the Masons gang stalkers found me.
mm,
Yeah. And they beat me up at my job, stalked me at my jobs, stole all of my documents, all of my, you know, social security, birth certificate, ID, everything. So they were in control of everything of mine. I mean, they even had gotten my clothes, everything, because my grandma had thrown my clothes outside. So everything that I owned was just like in a bucket of stuff, and I had it at my grandma's house, but he went and grabbed it, and the gang stalker, he put it in his car. So I was stuck just doing everything he said. And he told me, after he had ruined all my jobs, he said, well, don't worry, I got you a job that it's the last job that you're ever going to need. It's the job that everybody in the world wants. And he took me to the Mason Lodge.
Wow.
Yep.
It's like you were pushed that way. They did all came together so they could take your daughter and then push you down that road of slavery.
Exactly. I mean, my mom, she already owned, she knows all my, in charge of Social Security, all that. She has copies of all my stuff. She took my native papers and all that. She has all that. She told the courts actually that I have a job making a lot of money. And so they're charging me, I don't know, like some thousands of dollars a month child support for, my first daughter, being with a pedophile. And I don't even, I'm literally labor trafficked by Masons. So I don't know how they expect me to pay thousands of month in a month in child support. Yeah, to a pedophile. Two pedophiles, because it was my mom and my ex. They ended up moving in together after a bit.
Mm.
I mean, they're not together now. My mom's now married to ex-law enforcement. He's retired. Yeah. And yeah, my mom, I talked to my little sister recently for the first time in so long, and she told me that my mom's actively trying to kill him right now. So now I have to worry about my mom being super rich after killing this guy and coming after me even more.
It's like a black widow. Spider. Whoa. It's crazy how deep it goes. They did all that to me. I did manage to get away, but I still get targeted, and especially spiritually as well. I know they use a lot of witchcraft and things.
Yes, it is that deep. Seriously, because I didn't even know, like, when I was, in school and everything, I didn't know that they were sending witches around me and all that,
Yeah.
Yep, because that's what they definitely do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta write up I have to write up all about that. Yeah. How they do all the, black magic and all that. But it's
Yeah.
horrible. You always literally just, have to be on guard because it's serious.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I say in my videos, we need to protect ourselves energetically as well as, in reality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
escape.
One thing that the Masons always tell me and all their people is that I'm crazy. And the reason why they say that is it's not like I don't, I didn't have the opportunity to, Disney, all this stuff, yeah, be a politician and everything. Like they did pay for me to, be, for me to run my campaign and everything. But the thing is, you can't do it unless you're a pedophile. Like you're not allowed to be a politician unless you're allowing pedophilia. They will not allow you to go far in their club unless you do some nasty, evil stuff. And it's not just one time; it's continuous.
So it sounds like they hope that you'd sell your soul to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy, you don't, I don't know how to, it's like, I've been labor trafficked by them since 2015, and all of my work that I've done for them is so successful. But they give it to pedophiles to run. I run an event, like I do events, like I make up all kinds of events. One of the events I made, I didn't come up with the name for this. They came up with the name for it. But what happened is so at the Masonic lodges, they have events there, right? Like various different kinds of events. Like they're always trying to do something for the community, right?
Yeah.
That's always do. And they'll have the community stuff during the day, and then they'll have the sexual stuff at night,
Yeah.
right? And then they also have a special time for certain, other kind of parties, you know what I'm saying? And then their little meetings.
Yeah.
So at this particular lodge, that I was brought into, it's a huge lodge, San Bernardino, I think was there. I found something that somebody else had written where they said that the Satanists were working on making San Bernardino their Satanist capital. And like I could really see how that could be. It's because it's in the middle of San Diego, Barstow, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Arizona, not too far from Texas. It's like the perfect hub
Yeah.
for trafficking.
Yeah. And there's networks all around there as well, anyway, isn't there?
Yep. And then I just found out about that Army adrenochrome lab out here, right
Yeah.
around where I'm at. Like, that makes so much sense. And then they call this area where I'm at their burial grounds, the Army's burial grounds. I
Mm.
mean, not just that, it's known as all the biker gangs and all that. This is where they leave their bodies as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how much of actually of a dangerous position that we are in. Like we are surrounded. Like we're in a house. Yeah, we have a house. But can't get anything. But there's for miles and miles, it's just literally just desert. Like it's so hot, we can't go out. Like we're stuck. It's us and we have a pack of wolves. So, any food that we get, we got to give to them. Like, my husband and I were fine not eating, but the baby and the dogs is like, they got to eat, and wolves, they really got to eat. I
Yeah.
mean, they hunt everything, but we don't like them to do that really because the traffickers have actually killed the wolves before. Like there was how we got the wolf, this wolf pack is there were wolves out here, where the traffickers land is at. And when the trafficker moved in, he didn't like the wolves, so he tried to kill the wolves, and he did kill all the wolves in the pack except for one little puppy. And we took the one little puppy in, and she's grown now. And, we always had her near us and everything. We had her and another puppy, but they killed that puppy too. So that wolf puppy, she hates the traffickers so much. She does not want to go near them. Like, she doesn't like people at all, really, because she saw them kill her pack. She saw her mom and her brothers and her father all murdered, and then she saw our little puppy get murdered by the traffickers too. And then just recently, because we had since we're in the middle of nowhere, there was a really large American pit bull terrier. Like he was obviously pure blood, beautiful. He showed up at our doorstep just full of scars and open cuts and everything, bleeding out. And our girl just, she fell in love with him, and that's how they got, their puppies. And they just killed that dog, the pit bull.
Mm.
So now she just seen her mate again get killed. So all of us are on edge right now, because it's like we don't want these wolves to die, we don't want to die,
Yeah. It
but
sounds.
they've got cornered, they've got us surrounded.
Well, it sounds like it. I just hope you can find a way out soon. Maybe someone listening to this will be able
Yeah.
no other way.
Yes. Well, and that's why it's like I'm uh, I want to do anonymous because it's safe,
Yeah.
and the reason why too is what we're coming down to, and what I've been trying to explain on it too is that, so because of what happened, how my mom took us away from our dad, and then how my mom took my first daughter away.
Yeah.
um, Sorry. So yeah, so because of what my mom did, taking so many, kids away, and I saw the corruption, I started going online, and I'm like looking up groups, CPS corruption, exposed, yes. And I start being a part of all these groups, and I'm noticing like millions of, and I'm like, this is not a coincidence, it's not just San Bernardino County, it's not just my mom, you know, I mean, it can't be just her. It has to be something bigger. I mean, little things that I see my mom do, like for instance, like she goes up to pregnant poor girls and everything, and she'll say, "I'll give you $5,000 for your baby when it's born. Don't
Oh,
tell no or anything."
and do they do it?
I don't know, but I've seen her tell these girls that, and she'll give them her number and everything. And so I'm wondering, like, what is she doing with these babies?
Yeah.
There's a lot of weird things about my mom. Like, for instance, like another thing is like she never raised my sisters and I. Like, she always had someone else raise us for her, right? So my little baby sister, who we don't know who her dad is, she says, like, my little sister thinks that a daddy is whoever buys you something and tells you what to do. Like, that's what my little sister thinks a daddy is. Because my mom has trained her, like, she has a new dad, like whoever's gonna, the
Yeah.
new pedophile, whoever's gonna buy her what she wants and all that. Yeah, if she does what he says. So yeah. So, so sorry, it's literally hard. I'm just like, it hits me a lot sometimes. It really does.
It's all right.
I try to desensitize myself to it. I really do, you know,
It,
but
it's
because
hard.
you have to. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to an extent, I think, to survive, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So like that's why I told well, that's how you too actually with my sisters and stuff. It's different for us because it's like me. I had to see it. I could not ignore it, and like that's one thing I refused to do because like when I talked to my mom about it, and like I told her I don't want this to happen anymore. I don't want like because I didn't know it was called pedophilia and thing. I'm a little kid. Like I said, I just don't want this to happen anymore. And she says it's normal. They kept telling me, no, it's normal. Like my mom said it's normal. Like I'm supposed to believe her, because she's a daycare person, like she's going to school to be a teacher. Like she even pulled out in her books, like, and explained like in her books, like, oh, it says like it's okay for parents to be naked, and touching their kids and explain things to them and all that. Like, I was uncomfortable with it. Like my mom would just be happy, like try to be naked in bed with us and all that. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
but that made me bad, that made me the bad one.
Yeah.
So my mom always used me as the examples for my sister, so for them, it's easier for them to, yeah, just ignore it. And that's what I told them. Like, I just did talk to them, recently for the first time in a long time. And they told me that they had a talk, that was a hard talk where, they actually talked to each other about the sexual abuse that they endured. And that's incredible because, they like to, of course, ignore it, and one thing like I would tell them, which is hard for them to understand because I'm blacklisted, from that family and all. It's like I would tell them is like, don't ignore it, it's hard. But like if you do, then you'll end up like our mom, because if I tell her and all that, all this stuff that's happening to her, it's just normal. Like she won't admit, like she won't say, oh, I'm having my daughter sexually abused.
Yeah.
She'll just, it's normal, like, but she will never admit it. She'll never say, all that she's done. So
Yeah.
to me, that's like, it's, like my littlest sister did say one time, like she told me about how one of my mom's boyfriends was playing a game called Mommy and Daddy with her. And
Right.
then if he didn't play that, he would hurt her really bad and all. So when my little sister told me that, I called the police, and my mom just grabbed my little sister and uh my mom pretended like she needed to like go to the hospital, and she had my little sister. My little sister told me, this last time when I talked to her, this is the first time I heard it from her. And she said that my mom, you know, told her like not to tell anybody, like like not to, that she just basically forced my little sister not to tell them about what was happening. And then I didn't know either that, but my little sister told me that she was covered in bruises and cuts and all kinds of stuff. So when the police came and all that, and they asked what's going on, my mom just said she's just a kid, she hurts herself. Yeah.
Got away with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's not nobody. So that's why it's like, I had to like kind of put together the pieces, of it all. But when I seen those groups, and I seen all these people, like millions of people saying that their children were stolen by the government, this is not a coincidence. And one thing that I noticed is at first there was some, pretty good groups where, parents were kind of like talking, and where there was really like, conversation happening between parents and everything. And all those groups were taken out. And then they were replaced with certain other groups, all by only a few literal groups, like organizations, so-called organizations, because this is, we're coming closer to in the now. So what happened is I got in contact with some of these so-called anti-CPS groups who are so-called for the families.
Mm.
And because the people who did it, they made another group where they were talking, it was all about exposing like sexual predators, and exposing predators in general, but mainly like pedophiles and stuff. And I do pedophile hunting, like, but I don't like the whole talking to police, or going through those organizations, because I don't believe in them. So
Yeah.
more so like pedo hunting that I do is where it's like I will find them, catch them, and then I have other hunters, they do, yeah, work with police and all that. But so they kind of like turn that in, but will like send emails to like their work and all that. Basically, like, it's not under, so I'm not caring to have it under my name. I just do it,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get into it really, because of all of the stuff that I'm going through as it is. So it's more like, I do like work with other pedo hunters. I train them up and all that. Like, I do it because unfortunately you come across pedophiles. So I do pedo hunt, but I don't go like as far as to like, yeah, I mean, I have reported online, but after you pet a hunt for a while, you come to realize that, of course, that these apps like Facebook and Instagram and all that are in on it, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been pet hunting for a while, enough to know that, just reporting it like that is not what you do. Now I know what you do is you gotta like kind of like document it, and like figure out, are there any victims and all, and help the victims out, like, and then expose the predator. That's more so like what I do.
Yeah.
So when I ended up in this group, that's what I was thinking, like, we're gonna do. This lady, she just was like telling people to like go onto these pedophile groups on Facebook and all that, which there was, yeah, millions of people on these groups. Like, it was like these were our established groups, like they are, trading pictures of children and all that, little babies, all that. Like, they're established, they're doing really good, they're going well, like it's pumping pictures constant. So when you go in the groups, right, like it does like show like who goes on the groups and all that. It was like one of those groups where it shows like who saw the posts and all that. So all these so-called people who are supposedly going against these pedophiles, all their profiles were coming up onto the group. So I told the lady who ran the group, I said, "Hey, you're putting pedo hunters in danger, you're putting them in danger, and all you're doing is you're telling them to report it to Facebook and everything, when Facebook is a part of the problem." And
Yeah.
she was like, kind of like, I don't know, you could tell she was like, I'm like, not so happy that I said that, like, but she was like, "Oh, okay, thank you for the advice." And then I told her too, I said, make the group private, and that way too, that people, because she would, oh yeah, that's the one thing, another thing she was doing, she was typing in the comments and she was saying, "We are this group and we're coming after you," all that stuff, like, and she had people going onto the page and commenting on the pedophile stuff. And I told her, like, that's wrong, like you're putting people in danger. I said the best thing that we could do is literally, yeah, try to document it and then try to help the victims and stuff, try to find even some of the victims or whatever. And she just kind of like blew me off. But so what Facebook ended up doing is they just blocked all of us. And so she just took it as a like success. And the group was kind of like, yay, and so I took I was going through so much, so I took the opportunity to say, hey, I'm trafficked, introduce myself. I said, hey, could you guys help me expose my traffickers? And so this lady reached out to me. She was like, oh, hey, I work with the organization and we help the trafficked out and all that. And this is the same group that is so-called anti-CPS organization, so-called for the families and all. And I thought that they were at first, I had just added them, you know. So I'm thinking, okay, rookie mistake. I just blew off that whole, pedophile thing. And I said, rookie mistake, whatever. She didn't know what she was doing. But at the same time, like, come on, that's bad. Like, you really put people in danger. But so I was talking to her in conversation. She brought in this other gal who is the head of the organizations. I'm talking about anti-CPS and all, pro-family, so-called. And they're telling me, yeah, we're with the anti-trafficking organization. And I said, well, which one? And she said, National Trafficking Hotline and Polaris. And I said, oh, but they're with the Clintons. And they said, but it's our friend. I said, okay, well, if it's your friends and you say that, you're going to put in a good word and they are going to help me and stuff, because I looked it up online and like the information I found for the trafficked, it said that if you are trafficked, that you have so many rights as to like, even if you aren't a legal citizen, like you are going to be like, you are a citizen as they are going through your case, and that for the frame of which you were trafficked, that you paid at minimum wage for the time that you were trafficked. And also, looking into damages, all that. So also it said too that if there was any minor type issues, that it would be, the traffic person, like say like, I think that was, a common one be like, yeah, if you were sex trafficked, you're not going to be in trouble for the prostitution, or like say like you supposedly did hurt your trafficker or whatever, you're supposed to not get in trouble for that, which is not what happened.
I think your microphone's gone off.
Yeah. Sorry. So
Aye.
yeah. So yeah, when you're trafficked, the I had put enough courage together to call the hotline, because this was about a year ago now, really exactly, I think. And so, I was freaking out because at the same time, these traffickers were pedophiles, not pedophile, they're pedophiles and they're gang stalkers on me all the time. Like, basically, like, that's why I said they call me crazy, because it's like, in their eyes, all of this torture could end, all I have to do is accept their pedophilia. All I have to do is say, I'm not going to talk about it ever again. And if I do that, I'll have all the money. I could stay, in the house. They'll turn on the water. They'll do whatever it takes. Like, that's basically it,
Yeah.
And so, I got all these pedophiles on me constantly just saying, let us in, let us in. And I'm like, no. So, I'm freaking out because I have these pedophiles messaging me. So I say, and I have recordings of these, and the screenshots of these pedophiles, threatening and saying that, be with them and all, and that's it. Let it all happen, just shut up, and that if I don't do what they say, they're going to have police come over here and kick me out and say that we're squatting and that I've never done any work for them and all that. And it's kind of scary because like I do have the proof of me working. Like, if anyone looks into it, they could see all my work online. They could look into my history and see like the work. There's a lot of unfortunately, as we've talked about, is like they send people to you. So this is, everybody should be aware of this. Like, this is for everybody. It's like you are surrounded, like even if a person doesn't know about Masons, Freemasons, or whatever, they could still be controlled by them. Like if you are run off of money, you know, if you have a job and all that, your job is controlled by the Masons. The money is controlled by the Masons. Like they could live, you know, they will find a way to control anybody. And
Yeah.
so that's what I've been dealing with lately too, is like, you know, they'll send somebody my way and pretend like they're here to help and all that. You know, I, I'm beginning, you know, it's harder to be trusting, like more and more it's harder to be trusting, you know, of all the people that they've sent and screwed me over. And yeah, so saying is like, you know, in working for these Masons, like it's not like my work is not successful. I see my work successful all around. Like, yeah, and you know, and so yeah, the Masons have all these events, right? And so I got tired of the Masons sexual events, and I got tired of them doing like, you know, we would do cannabis events, and like, you know, I don't mind them so much, but the problem is like they want to do all their porn star stuff and like, you know, Snoop Dogg, all that stuff is corrupt and evil. Like I don't want nothing to do with that. So I
Yeah.
would tell them we could do events, like we don't need evil stuff. Like that was my main point to them. So I had come up with an event, and it's like a family swap meet, like a super it's like a super land for families. And they did do that event. They called it 909 Tacolandia, and they have it at the Masonic Lodge. And they told me that, you know, it was going to be mine, it was going to be the other guy, you know, this other guy, and that, you know, I would get paid. Like they should have, like, I should have no issue with money, like the amount of money that they would be making for all the events that they take from me. Like money is not an issue. I mean, in the first place, money is not an issue to Masons, you know. Every Mason's got to have at least 200,000 in a safe at their lodge just to have it, you know.
Yeah.
But it's nothing to them, you know. It really is like they like um eventually, you know, I was actually for a bit in between, right after the satanic ritual abuse in Los Angeles, because see, I didn't know at that time that the Masons were involved with my satanic ritual abuse. I didn't even, I mean, what had happened was that, so I was doing events for the Masons, and I was still not aware of everything yet, like masonry and all that. It was still, this was before the campaign. This was before, I mean, I say for a bit, I mean, for most of my life, like literally, like I learned all about this like within the last, you know, since I've been trafficked, really, and not through the whole thing, but I'm saying I barely figured out all this like within the last few years, really, actually, you know, like, um, you know, I knew I never trusted the government since I was a kid. I knew that, you know, having
Yeah.
seen the corruption, but you know, I never, you know, I heard people say something about, oh, there's a secret society out there of people called Masons and all that. You know, I've heard, you know, that movie Da Vinci Code, they said something about Illuminati and they leave signs places, and like everyone's just like, oh, it's just a conspiracy. It's just something, you know. And so
Yeah.
the only thing I had in my head was, I'm going to keep an eye out for these symbols, you know. And, you know, I did notice like that G, the compass G was everywhere, you know. So I'm like, oh, okay, maybe, you know, there is something to it, but you know, it's everywhere. So I don't know, maybe it's just something they put like that says, you know, we finished the project or whatever, you know. So like, you know, when I saw the G at the Mason Lodge, I still was just like, oh well, I saw it at the library, I saw it at the college, you know. It didn't really click to me yet, you know.
Yeah.
I didn't know that would, you know, the deal that Mason gave me was like, you know, that common deal with the devil, you know. And you know, and I thought that it did sound like it, but then I was like, oh, I have good intentions, you know. So I
Yeah.
didn't, you know,
You
but
don't report of it as such.
yeah, you know, and that's what I'm saying. I always thought, okay, I'm gonna make it better. Like I literally was at the Mason meetings, like that's what I was getting to, is that so it was after the satanic ritual abuse. After the satanic ritual abuse, like I was not supposed to survive that. Like I was supposed to be dead. So you know, there I am in the warehouse. This is You know, this is some big people's warehouses. This is where like they film like for Comedy Central and a lot of big people. Like I'm gonna throw out just a couple names, you know. I'm gonna say the Roll Up Show because that's like what they called themselves at that time. But like with these Illuminati Mason people, like, you know, they go by a bunch of different names. Like, you know, as we know, like Disney owns a whole bunch of different companies, you know, so you could say one company and you're talking about Disney, you know, like I'm talking like that, like, you know, so at that time they're calling themselves the Roll Up Show. They're a recording studio, so they do the recordings for a lot of like big hip hop artists, which I'm not really into hip hop, so I don't know all of them. The only one that I do know is like Snoop Dogg, you know,
Yeah.
not good. Yeah, he family's there and all that. The satanic ritual abuse done to me. So I was not supposed to survive that. I literally did die. I know that, you know, they know that. Like they left my body there for dead. Like
Yeah.
it have cameras in there, they have sensors in there, the place is guarded, it's got walls and all that. So there's like when they left me there, you know, they thought job all done, she's dead, you know, we're
Yeah.
gonna go pocket you, like, you know, so they left. I was there. I was there dead for a bit, you know, long enough for them to like get away, obviously. So when I come to, you know, eh, like, you know, the true native.
Oh, your microphone's gone a bit quiet.
Can you hear me?
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I was saying, my family's native, but they're colonized native, and they like buy thoroughbred horses and all that. They never liked me. Another reason, not just for talking bad about pedophiles, because I like wild horses. So to them, the wild horses should just be eliminated. Like it should just be thoroughbred horses being in races, and everybody should be colonized.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like there's always been like a really native sense to me, like that's guiding me. Like I was a little kid and I had a dream where there was an elder native woman sitting across from me, and the sun was just shining on us, and she was not speaking, but I could hear her like speaking to me, and like she said, remember hearing the really loud was shaman, like you're a shaman. So, you know, I woke up and I told my family like I'm a shaman, and they were really pissed, and I'm like, well, what is that, you know? And I come to find, you know, I grow to find out that it was a word, and you know, it's been something that I've been working on, you know, being because of that dream. And um I say I've worked on learning Native American customs, you know, by talking to fellow natives and all, and it's crazy to me how it literally these customs that were erased and nobody even taught me, like I've been doing them in my life. Like when I was in junior high, to escape the pedophiles, I would go run away to the forest.
Yeah.
Um, I love spending time with wild horses, and like I did consider that like, you know, kind of like a spirit animal. So when I died, I did see like a black horse, you know, like great spirit come with the black horse and say like, you need to go, like I'm gonna guide you, and this is it. Like you have to tell people that there's not going to be any chances after this. Like, you know, basically like sound the alarm. Like
Yeah.
it's a miracle, you know. I can only thank Great Spirit, I can only thank God, you know, for it, because after all that had happened to me, you know, to get to that point to where I even died, and then I, you know, have
Yeah.
to from this, and I had to try to escape, you know, alive from that as well. Like, you know, it was, I didn't know what I was going to do, you know, because when those people, because that was Illuminati in Los Angeles that did it to me. Before they did that to me, like they were doing it because they wanted me to work for them. They said, leave the Masons for us. And I didn't want to do that because they were, you know, they made it very clear, like, you know, they, like when I was there at their studio and stuff, they had all these porn stars there. Like they had missing kid, like there was obviously missing kids there. Like these kids don't know they're missing because they're like lost and stuff. They think they're there because they're like gonna be stars and stuff. But no, like you're about to be sacrificed, you know, for
Yeah.
the next hit song and shit. So, you know, I was not about to be a part of that. So I straight up told them no, like, you know, I told the Illuminati no in Los Angeles. And they were like, no, we're not going to let you go, you know? So
Yeah.
that's, so they drove me, what happened is that before they did the actual ritual, you know, satanic ritual abuse to kill me, they drove me around Los Angeles, you know, with their like star buses and stuff, because they had like their celebrities in the star buses and like their star cars and all that, whatever, you know, BMWs, whatever. I don't know cars because I don't drive, but fancy cars, they drive them around to different really big parties in Los Angeles. The stars come out and they wow everybody. They've got like hidden tunnels and like all this like, you know, walls, like you could move walls, like you move like a weird angel statue, and then there's like a room in the back and stuff like that. That's what they showed me. And I saw they had you know, phones, and on the phones they show me that they could see like all around Los Angeles. Like they're always watching. They got cameras everywhere. They're always watching everywhere. You know,
Mm.
and they told when they showed me that, like when they showed me the cameras, like they were going through the footage, like I saw a girl being sexually abused on the freaking camera. Like they were watching it. Like it was nothing like, you know, he wasn't, you know, it's like he knows that it's happening. Like he didn't have to watch it, but he knew it was happening. Like he knows all these rapes are happening. Like they're orchestrating all these missing kids. Like they're doing all this. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like I even saw like how they implemented the fentanyl killings and everything, like that the freaking police and the Masons and Illuminati, they're behind the fentanyl killings.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I uncovered that one as well.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
you know, one thing so we'll have to talk more on that, you know, ourselves, but one thing I saw I've been finding out on that too is like they're blaming the fentanyl dealings on like, you know, even like natives and poor people. Like it's targeted like all around, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I saw you know, when for some of the first killings, like I saw some of the first killings, and it was there was this girl and she would hang around the Mason Lodge, and she had a boyfriend, and he would abuse her, and she stood up to him. And they kicked her out of the Mason Lodge, and then they let him be there. And it's like they let all these like, you know, there was like girls that would hang around the lodge basically, you know, hang out with their boyfriends during these events. And then all of a sudden, like they let these guys join the Masons, and so they're starting to like do heavy drugs and beat their girlfriends and all that stuff and cheat on them. And if the girls are not okay with it, then the guy, you know, then the guys get rid of the girls. And then if the girls act like too much of a problem, you know, and if they won't get with like another Mason guy that they set up with those girls, then they kill them.
Mm.
So I literally did see that. Yeah, like I've seen, you know, I don't know how to say, it's like for me, you know, because like you know, like I was homeless, like I'm living there at the Mason Lodge, so I was there like 24/7, like watching these events, like a circus, you know, like come and go, and like, you know, I was the head mason's secretary, so the head mason didn't like to be there for the events or anything, so he would kind of like just leave me there. He has his people there too, but like, you know, he had like me there, like things were more so safe, yes, when I was there at the lodge, you know, because of course I'm keeping an eye on things, but even with me there, it wasn't all that safe because I didn't know all that was going on. Like
Yeah.
things get revealed like very slowly. Like, so like one example I'll say is like there was a young, very, very young girl, like barely 18. If she, I don't know if she, that's something, I don't even know if she was 18 when she first started going there, because they have underage kids going there, you know, they start off with the community events and they start going on to the rest of the sexually inappropriate events and all that. So that's what I mean is that, so she might have been 17 turning 18. So this mason buys this girl some lingerie and all that, and you know, drives her around, gets her some stuff and everything, has her feeling good and stuff, brings her to the Mason Lodge to sexually abuse. And this girl's thinking like she's gonna be a star and everything. And so what happened is one day I'm sitting in front of the Mason Lodge, and you know, I was kind of like upset with them, but like I'm stuck, so like what can I do? But I was upset with them because it's like they would always tell me like they can't pay me, but I'm watching them porn stars. I'm watching them pay prostitutes. I'm watching them like buy a bunch of stuff that they don't need and talk about all these vacations and everything. Like, I mean, they obviously got money, like they could pay me, like it didn't make sense to say like you can't pay me. So one day I'm sitting in front of the Mason Lodge and I'm a little upset, and this young girl walks up to me and she says, I really admire how you talk that, talk against the pedophiles, but what I don't understand is how you work for a pedophile. And so when she said that, I was like, oh, I mean, there was like a part of me that like I feel like, was God telling me, pay attention to what's going on, in regards to, I'm here, I'm around all these Masons and everything, pay attention to what's going on. But then there was a part of me too, like where I feel like it was like God saying, like, if you knew all that they were doing, if you knew all they were involved with, you would, kill them right now. Which, I never will forgive myself, because in the first place, I watched my little sisters be sexually abused by pedophiles who are still abusing today.
Yeah.
My mom is a serial pedophile abuser. So I will never forgive myself for not being strong enough to kill those pedophiles.
Yeah, you can't take that on though. It's too big. You're
Well, I
not
mean,
at all.
I know that's my flaw, because I it's not just those pedophiles. Like, there's a never-ending amount of pedophiles. It's hard,
I
but
think
at the same time, I've even, as girls do get, like, you get sexually abused in public. It's horrible, but it's like, I wish I could be one of those girls that could like hit back, but I don't even do that.
I think that.
That's why, yeah, with my, my baby right now, like I'm trying to teach her like hit, punch, kick, like don't feel bad about it, because
Yeah,
for me, I got a block on it. I can't do it. I
yeah,
wish I could.
yeah.
Yeah.
Avoid conflicts. That's what I'm like.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's like I have another friend, and she's trafficked by a lot of big people in Hollywood. She's been in over like, I think it's like 20,000 films or something. Like, I
Wow.
mean, Titanic, all of it. Like, you name a movie, she's done it. Like, really, like, she pretty much, honestly, is the real Hollywood. But she's trafficked by Hollywood. She's bred by Hollywood. Like, she, is bigger. It's bigger than Epstein. The stuff that
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
she tells me all the time, like, as I'm sure you know too, is like all of us people who are going through it and have gone through it, we always get told to shut up, and you
yeah,
know, like, even with the Sound of Freedom thing, people are like, oh, you guys should be happy because it's like, at least you guys have to realize that you're not going to be heard unless Hollywood says it.
yeah,
And it's like, how insulting is that when it's like, we are what makes them big, they're the ones draining it from us.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they're not. Yeah. And so it's like, you think that you're, you guys think that that's good? Like we're supposed to be, that's not even bare minimum, like, you guys want a medal for going to a movie by freaking traffickers, and at the same time, you're literally telling us traffic to shut up.
yeah. I had that yesterday, actually.
It's really bad right now. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
it was bad before, but it's really bad right now.
yeah. What you were
But
saying before about how maybe you were there, like God put you there to witness it. I believe
yeah,
that with ourselves. It's like we infiltrated them and now we get to expose it all, because
yeah.
people don't realize how deep it is and how big it is. And there's so much to it. And you've seen all that firsthand. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think
That's,
we're
so
traitors as well.
that's why it's like, I take death so seriously, because I did go through it. And, the last time it happened to me, God told me it's not going to happen again. There are not going to be any second chances. Like, it's scary.
Yeah, it is.
all this is scary, but that's why it's like, even though, you know, I did get threatened by the police, because that's what happened. So as the anti-CPS people told me those are their friends and all, I mean, the traffickers told me before those anti-CPS people told me that those are their friends, the traffickers had told me that they own them. From their own mouths, they told me, they said, like, they were laughing, like, oh, I knew I should have recorded that conversation, but at that time I didn't really have a phone. Like, I was on a crack phone. I do have a little bit better phone right now, but at that time, like, I was on a cracked phone, you could barely hear. And so the trafficker was laughing and he was like, nobody's gonna believe you. No one is gonna believe you. He's like, you could call the police, you could call whoever you want, call the trafficking hotline. He's like, I own them all.
Yeah.
He said. So, that's why when they said call them, I'm like, but they told me that they own them. Like, it's not gonna help. But I called them, because I had the proof. I have the proof of, the pedophiles making threats and all.
Yeah.
So, but when the police, I called them, because so what it says online, like, if you're trafficked, it says call the hotline, let them know, they'll give you a number, that says you have a case. Then after that, you call the police to make a report. The police come, you make a report, and you use that report to prove that you are being trafficked. So that's when I was thinking that was going to happen. I called the hotline. They gave me a number. They were on, they told me to call them back after I called the police and make a report with them. I called the police. They told me that they're going to send an officer out, to make a report. And I told them, I said, tell the officer that's coming out that I'm labor trafficked and that I am surrounded. So as soon as that you guys come, the traffickers are going to come out. And no doubt they're going to want to talk to them and all that, And so my husband, he at that time he still didn't want to believe, like, because this guy, the trafficker, is like, he was our friend, but he's using us. But my husband didn't want to believe it yet. So I told him I'm calling, the trafficking hotline. And my husband was like, no, don't call, like, we're going to get the money that we're owed from the trafficker, our
Yeah.
friend.
I think your microphone's gone off again. Don't know if you were.
Sorry, our dogs are barking right now, which every time that does, we have to worry about an intruder and all. And yeah, so my husband has to run out there.
That's all right.
So yeah, hold on, I'm trying to grab the baby because.
Well, we can wrap it up here if you want to. We've done quite a good run. We're going to come on and do another one soon, aren't we? So, what do you think? Or is there any more you want to say?
Sorry.
I just give her a minute to come back. Hard to believe, really, all this goes on. And the extent to it all. I'm going to do more podcasts in the future as well, and we can expose a bit more about this kind of thing and kind of the depths it goes to and what to look out for, because it is important to understand that, to know how to protect yourself, and also, not end up in any of those circumstances yourself. Right, I'm going to end this video here, and I'll hold on for Tonga to come back. Thank you all for watching. We will be back again soon, as I say, with another podcast. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you again soon.